Tonight, the Prime Minister declares Canada's old relationship with the U.S. is over, and he vows to retaliate.
Our response to these latest tariffs is to fight.
Canada stares down a 25% U.S. auto tariff.
We were a little bit nervous. We were anxious. Now we're sick of being antagonized.
Now, a signal from a Trump advisor, some Canadian vehicles may be exempt. Campaigns forced to switch gears.
My message to President Trump is knock it off.
We are all united in fighting back against Donald Trump.
Do their messages meet the moment? At issues here. In the United States, masked immigration officials suddenly detain a foreign student on a valid visa.
It was reminiscent of authoritarian regimes.
How the Trump administration is cracking down on campus dissent.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault.
Thank you for joining us. The federal election campaign is shifting in real time to respond to Donald Trump's auto tariff threat. Mark Carney returning to Ottawa, vowing Canada will retaliate next week and issuing a blunt message.
The old relationship we had with the United States, based on deepening integration of our economies and tight security and military cooperations, is over.
Carney paused his election campaign to respond to the trade crisis. After gathering the U.S. Relations Committee, he spoke about a coordinated response, warning nothing is off the table. As Olivia Stefanovich explains, what exactly is coming, April the 2nd, Tariff Day, is still unknown.
Get a chance to arrange a call with President
Liberal leader Mark Carney pausing his campaign to put his prime ministerial hat back on.
And our response to these latest tariffs is to fight.
Promising to impose retaliatory tariffs next week should U.S. President Donald Trump move ahead with a 25% levy on imported vehicles on April 2nd.
I reject any attempts to weaken Canada.
Carney, who has not spoken to Trump since he became prime minister, says the president has now reached out to set up a call.
I appreciate this opportunity to discuss how we can protect our workers and build our economies. I will make clear to the President that those interests are best served by cooperation and mutual respect, including of our sovereignty.
We need to retaliate. I just got off the phone with the Prime Minister. I had a good conversation with the Prime Minister. He agrees 100%.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford also had a call last night with U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Ford says Lutnick offered reassurances that auto part manufacturers aren't going to be touched, and the vehicles with majority American parts will be exempted. The rest would be tariffed at 12.5%.
It's not going to be a good situation, in my opinion.
It's not clear how that would be determined, with parts and cars crossing the border multiple times.
My message to President Trump is knock it off. Stop attacking America's friends.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre also vowing to make Canada less reliant on the U.S. unless Trump changes his tune.
Start trading so that we can once again become richer, stronger, and more secure on both sides of the border.
With more than 500,000 Canadian livelihoods in the auto industry at stake, Carney will hold a virtual meeting tomorrow with Canada's premiers, who are bracing for potentially even more economic chaos to come next week. Remember, that's when those broad 25% tariffs on Canadian goods are also supposed to kick in on April 2nd.
All right, so Olivia, what's your sense of what we can expect from that meeting with Carney and the premiers?
Well, even though he's back on the campaign trail, Adrian, Carney is preparing for Canada's next round of countermeasures. Now, specifics aren't being released at this time. The federal government wants to see what Trump does next and how that phone call between Carney and Trump goes before making these retaliatory plans public. But Carney says nothing is off the table, and he's made it clear that Canada's old relationship with the U.S. is over.
Olivia Stefanovich in Ottawa, thank you.
You're welcome.
These tariffs sparking anger and confusion in the Canadian auto sector tonight as thousands of workers brace for potential shutdowns or layoffs. But as Nisha Patel shows us, they're also ready to fight back.
Our plans, our jobs, our plans, our jobs.
An emergency meeting of auto workers in Oshawa, Ontario, trying to make sense of the impact of any tariffs.
We cannot continue to operate in Canada with this kind of uncertainty, with this kind of upheaval, with this kind of chaos.
They're worried tariffs could increase costs, leading to factory shutdowns and layoffs. With more than 125,000 Canadian jobs tied to the auto industry and hundreds of thousands more in related parts manufacturing, workers have been on edge for weeks.
We've got a lot of people that work around easy right now, so stressful times for everybody, right?
We were a little bit nervous, we were anxious, maybe a slight bit scared, but now we're sick of being antagonized.
About 93% of the vehicles made in Canada are exported to the U.S. With parts and components that are shipped across the border multiple times, auto manufacturing across North America is deeply intertwined.
Canada is relatively better positioned than most other countries because we have so much American content in the vehicles that we produce here.
There is hope after word from the Ontario Premier that tariffs may be lower for vehicles with half of their parts made in the U.S.
Every effort is being undertaken to make sure that we can protect this Canadian footprint, keep Canadians employed.
But ongoing uncertainty and the constant threat of additional tariffs is already weighing on business.
All the investors are spooked. Everybody is sitting on their hands, waiting to see where the ground still stops shifting.
In Windsor, Ontario, another manufacturing hub, workers say they're in a precarious position.
We don't know if we can, buy something, go put our money down on something. We have no indication as to what's going to happen to our plant, our jobs.
With more tariffs set for next week, they may not have clarity anytime soon. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
On the federal election campaign trail, these latest tariff threats forced some leaders to pivot as auto workers and Donald Trump became the focus. Marina von Stackelberg shows us their messages.
Yeah, Canada's strong, brother.
Jagmeet Singh trying to catch a moment with Windsor auto workers heading home from their shift. The NDP rerouted its campaign bus to the auto capital of Canada in the wake of Trump's tariffs.
When they called us yesterday and said, we want to meet with you, this isn't about the election campaign, this is about what's happening in the States.
The NDP has been fighting to keep support, especially with its traditionally blue-collar voters. Singh promised he would make it easier for people who were laid off to get employment insurance and take the GST off Canadian-made cars.
We got to retool our manufacturing sector so we can build vehicles entirely tailpipe to headlight in our country, to build up a more resilient automotive manufacturing sector.
Singh wasn't the only one to change his election schedule. Liberal leader Mark Carney flew back to Ottawa to step into his role as Prime Minister before heading to an evening campaign rally.
We've had another day, another unjust, pointless, and irresponsible attack on Canada by President Trump.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, too, out with a campaign promise for tax savings, started with a pointed message for the U.S. president.
Within 4 years of a new, strong Conservative government, Canada will be completely rebuilt. We will rebuild our economy. We will not be reliant on the U.S. anymore, and the Americans will have lost the greatest trading partner and friend.
While the leader of the Bloc Québécois acknowledged the effect Trump is having.
Is doing something to the whole Canadian election campaign. This is the way it works.
Donald Trump has injected a level of chaos that will likely leave all political parties rushing to change plans and policy on the fly throughout this campaign. It's a remarkable situation for a Canadian election to be so deeply marked by the decisions of a single person outside our own country. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Windsor, Ontario.
At his BC campaign stop, Poilievre pledged a Conservative government would boost the amount Canadians can put in their tax-free savings account, as long as that money is invested in Canadian companies.
This will bring billions of dollars of investment into Canadian companies who will then spend it on factories, equipment, tools, wages, and making our economy self-reliant and strong.
The annual limit right now is $7,000. He said he would increase it by $5,000 a year. All right, let's bring in Chief Political Correspondent Rosemary Barton. So, Rosie, in many ways, totally foreseeable that Donald Trump would become part of this campaign. But how do the campaigns meet the moment?
Let's start with the Liberal campaign, preparing for this more than the others for a couple of reasons. Mark Carney is still the Prime Minister, and he needed to respond today in that role and start preparing for a counter-tariff response come Wednesday. So you saw him have a cabinet meeting, reach out to premiers, prepare for a call with the president. But his election campaign is also built around this moment, his pitch that he's the best suited to stand up to Donald Trump and that should be the central ballot box question. So he's leaning into the moment in hopes it will help him politically while trying to manage the expectations of Canadians in terms of how hard this is all going to be, and saying really bluntly, Adrian, that the relationship between Canada and the U.S. that was based on integrated economies and security cooperation is now over.
And the Conservatives?
Pierre Poilievre did talk about the president today. He told Trump to knock it off, but there was nothing specific in his announcement about increasing the limit of a tax-free savings account that was about this. And that's the ongoing challenge for Poilievre. He's taking his conservative policy ideas, he's trying to fit them into the Trump frame. So today's response seemed out of step. And given that this tariff threat is, of course, going to continue into next week, if he doesn't start addressing this issue more directly, it is going to be a problem for him.
All right, Rosemary Barton in Ottawa, thank you.
Thanks.
And Rosie will be back in no time at all with the Ad Issue crew to talk more about how Trump is affecting this campaign and how the parties are seizing on each other's weaknesses. In other news, search and rescue efforts continue tonight for 4 U.S. soldiers who went missing while training in Lithuania. The U.S. Army says the armored vehicle they were in for an exercise was found submerged in a swamp after they were reported missing on Tuesday. The U.S. military camp has been active near the Lithuanian capital since 2021. Hundreds of military personnel and emergency workers are taking part in the search. And U.S. immigration agents have arrested a Turkish-born graduate student studying in Boston, and they've revoked her visa. She's one of a number of college students legally in the U.S. to be targeted by the Trump administration for pro-Palestinian views. Chris Reyes brings us surveillance video of the arrest and the reaction.
Approached by masked U.S. immigration agents near her home in Massachusetts Tuesday night, Rumeysa Öztürk was suddenly arrested, all captured clearly by CCTV cameras. The Turkish national is a PhD candidate at Tufts University near Boston on a valid student visa. But the Trump administration is revoking it, accusing her of engaging in pro-Hamas activities. Watching that footage, immigration lawyer Gabriel Chin is alarmed.
It was reminiscent of authoritarian regimes. Well, I don't know if we've ever seen revocation of student visas, deportation of students on this scale.
Our movement is not only this encampment.
Just this month, 2 Columbia University students, Mahmoud Halil and Yunseo Chung, were also arrested. Both are U.S. permanent residents, and both are accused by the government of engaging in activities that support Hamas. Their lawyers argue they were exercising their right to speak out against the war in Gaza.
So the notion that simply because you say something that the people in power happen to dislike would land you behind bars, it raises some very serious fundamental constitutional questions. These are violations.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio has defended the deportation orders and confirmed that more than 300 foreign student visas have been revoked, many in connection to the pro-Palestinian protests on college campuses.
I think it's crazy to invite students into your country that are coming onto your campus and destabilizing it. We're just not going to have it. So we'll revoke your visa, and once your visa is revoked, you're illegally in the country and you have to leave.
These cases have sparked protests all over the U.S. as civil rights groups fight the deportation orders in court. Halil and Öztürk remain in custody, while earlier this week a judge ruled that Chung can't be detained while she fights her deportation. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
In Egypt, 6 Russian tourists are dead after a submarine sank in the Red Sea. The vessel was on a tour of coral reefs when it crashed. 39 people were rescued. Tonight, at least 4 remain in serious condition. And health officials here are on high alert as Canada faces its worst measles outbreak in more than a decade. Ontario alone has now seen more than 500 cases since the outbreak began in October. As Jennifer Yoon explains, schools are now taking action.
It's one of the most contagious and preventable diseases out there, but measles is once again sweeping through Canada and hitting one province hard. 102 more cases have been recorded in Ontario alone this past week, most caught in community settings. It's a smaller spike than last week when Public Health Ontario reported 120 new infections.
It's unquestionably good news that the numbers are not climbing anymore. That's the first step, right? How long it's going to take for them to go away, for the numbers to decline, hard to tell.
Especially because we may not have seen the full fallout from spring break yet, says Public Health Ontario.
I'm not expecting this to sort of turn around on a dime. I think it will take time, but I think that that time is also related to the ongoing efforts of getting people vaccinated.
And health authorities are trying hard to convince people to get vaccinated. Enforcing a law this week in this region of southwestern Ontario, mandating children in schools be immunized for several diseases, including measles, or be sent home.
We would have suspended 461 students, and I'm really, really proud to see our team has been working so hard communicating with parents and students, and we've reduced that number as at this morning by over 50%.
Children make up the majority of people hospitalized because of measles in Ontario. Most were unvaccinated and 2 landed in the intensive care unit. That's why public health officials are imploring parents to immunize their kids. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
The baseball season gets underway with the Blue Jays home opener. Why some fans are feeling frustrated.
I'm really tired of the losing. I hate losing more than I like winning.
Alberta's oil and gas industry is bracing for Trump's tariffs.
This feels different.
We ask workers what they're hoping to see in this election. And a photographer captures an elusive bear.
It really is sort of an out-of-body experience.
We're back in 2. Saskatchewan is scrapping its industrial carbon tax.
Saskatchewan will now be a carbon tax-free province, the first carbon tax-free province in the nation of Canada.
Premier Scott Moe says this is a response to moves from federal leaders. Mark Carney eliminated the consumer carbon tax, and Pierre Poilievre has gone further, promising to also scrap the industrial tax paid by large industrial emitters. The pause in Saskatchewan goes into effect on April the 1st. Well, Canada's federal election is being watched closely by Alberta's oil and gas sector amidst uncertainty from U.S. tariffs. Julia Wong is in Fort McMurray asking industry leaders what they want to hear on the campaign trail.
So here we have one of the pumps that our clients dropped off.
Oil and gas is the heart and soul of this Fort McMurray heavy equipment repair company. But with the trade war, plans to expand and hire more staff are paused indefinitely.
I've been in McMurray my whole life and I've seen the ups and downs, but this feels different. This feels a lot different and a lot of uncertainty with respects to the tariffs and respects to elections now being called.
An election oil country is watching closely. Corey Coffey wants party leaders to know the stakes are high.
I want to hear how they want to unite Canada. So how do we fit into this national unity, right? What are their plans for increasing the access of our resources to, the West Coast and the East Coast.
Alberta sends almost all of its crude oil south of the border.
Pump operators, heavy equipment operators,
and livelihoods in this community rely on the energy sector. At this job fair, the federal party's plans for Canadian energy are key.
The emissions reduction policies that we look to hear from all the major parties. The second probably being carbon pricing, their strategy for that, and then thirdly, as we talk to the tariffs and our economic development and future trade relations with worldwide.
I'd like to see more pipeline come around.
Tariff threats have splintered this country's relationship with the U.S. People here want more Canadian support and certainty.
I would hope from this election or nationally that our population would understand it's a bit of a turning point in Canada's history, and maybe it's path to prosperity, and understand the importance of oil and gas to our economy and to our prosperity and protecting our sovereignty.
Sovereignty that many see as tied to energy independence, making a ballot box question here, who's best suited to handle this reckoning for Canadian oil and gas?
Julia Wong, CBC News, Fort McMurray, Alberta.
And of course, it's not just Canada feeling the uncertainty. Chris Brown takes us to the south of France, where famed wineries are scrambling to find new markets in the face of Trump's threats.
The season has only just begun, but already the mood in southern France's wine region has turned sour. Pierre Geoffrey runs Chateau Tariffs with his wife Nadine Auré. They make about 15,000 bottles a year, mostly red, a lot of it sold abroad. Just the threat by Donald Trump of a big tariff hit has already cost them a lot of business.
We should have an order in April for the US markets. We are now end of March.
And he said today, for this time, we stop.
And we just know it today, he won't order.
Who is this?
It's our main importer in California.
The couple laid off a longtime worker, and it's hard to plan for the future.
How could you find a strategy in front of someone who has known?
European diplomats have come away from White House meetings despondent, believing EU products, including alcohol, will face at least a 20% duty. And if Europe retaliates, Trump has threatened a nuclear option, a 200% tariff on alcohol. But this economist doubts it will come to that. I think the Americans don't necessarily want a lot of customs duties, says Anne-Sophie Alsif. I think they want to get deals and negotiate a better deal. Perhaps, but other producers are trying to make contingency plans, such as this sales rep for a champagne company who's looking for new buyers in Canada.
We were going to Canada in May to Calgary and Vancouver for Top Drop events, and we also have to target other markets.
Chateau Tariffs weathered previous Trump tariff threats in his first term, but it took years to recover the business they lost.
It's very hard to get it back because you have all the work to do to reconquer that market.
Their hope is that Europe stays united and hits back at the United States, but not so hard that it ruins their winery. Chris Brown, CBC News, near Avignon, France.
The Blue Jays hit the field for their first game at home.
Old Jersey, old school.
And there's a star fans are hoping will stay on the roster. And Rosie's here with that issue. Hello.
Hey, Adrian. Tonight, we're obviously going to talk about Trump's latest tariffs.
And our response to these latest tariffs is to fight, is to protect, and to build.
So how are parties responding to this in the campaign? Chantal, Althea, and Andrew join me to talk about that and more.
King Charles is back at home tonight after he was briefly hospitalized on Thursday. The palace said it was to watch for side effects of his cancer treatment. As a precaution, they have postponed his Friday engagements. The 76-year-old monarch was diagnosed with cancer last February. Well, the Blue Jays are back for the start of a new season. While there is a lot of excitement and hope, as Jamie Strachan tells us, there is also concern about whether the team can hang on to a star player.
Old Jersey, old school.
The jerseys are out.
Opening day program here.
Programs for sale.
Awesome, thank you.
Hot dogs on the grill for the Toronto Blue Jays home opener.
The sights, the sounds, and of course, the food. Thanks, Gus, I appreciate that. There's always optimism on the opening day of the baseball season, but for Blue Jay fans at the game today and across the country, there is a feeling of restlessness.
I'm really tired of the losing. I hate losing more than I like winning.
We got a lot of reasons to be angry. They didn't have a good offseason. They didn't sign what they should have.
It's been more than 30 years since the Jays won the World Series, and even though Canada's team upgraded its roster,
number 27, Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
Fans are frustrated the team hasn't secured a contract extension for superstar Vladimir Guerrero.
You're not just buying a player, you're buying a franchise player as well as a brand. And I don't know if the front office understands that.
The fan favorite is a free agent after this season. So far, the team has been unable to sign him.
I don't want him to go. If he goes, with every team he is, I'm going to watch the game, not the Blue Jays anymore.
That is the
the basis of the fan frustration.
I don't think the contract thing is weighing on him.
Richard Griffin both covered and worked for the Jays and says the team has to open its wallet and prove to fans winning matters.
It's an extra couple of $1 million per year to maintain your own best player and the integrity of the franchise.
A franchise desperate to win now.
All of our staff, we feel the pressure to put a winning team on the field.
Walked one and struck out 6.
Not a great start. A lopsided opening day loss. One down, 161 games to go.
And it's 9-2.
Fans hope things can only get better. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
Now let's break down the week in politics. Rosie's here with that issue.
At issue tonight, the Trump effect. The U.S. president announced a new round of tariffs on autos, forcing party leaders to pivot and respond.
We also have to make it very clear that as a nation, as a country, we're going to take care of our workers.
We will never be the 51st state, but we can once again be friends with the United States if the president reverses course on these disastrous tariff threats.
We will fight the U.S. tariffs with retaliatory trade actions of our own that will have maximum impact in the United States.
So how are Trump's latest tariffs affecting Canada's election? How are parties responding? I'm Rosemary Barton, here to break it down. Chantal Hébert, Andrew Coyne, Althea Raj. We all knew this was going to happen at some point, and now it has. And it is interesting to see how people are responding or not to all of this. Andrew, let's start with Mark Carney, who has, of course, the benefit of being the Prime Minister in this moment. But what do you make of how he responded today?
Well, yeah, he gets to, convene emergency meetings and make a show of taking time off from the campaign. It looks, what does it look? It looks prime ministerial. So it's one of the advantages of incumbency. But look, this is going to happen again and again. I mean, we know it's going to happen on April the 2nd in some form. It might happen more times after that. Mr. Trump has the capacity to just continue to sort of throw little stink bombs or worse into the middle of this campaign. But it's always been hanging over this. This is just essentially bringing us back to where we were a few days before this. That Trump is going to be the decisive issue of this campaign. I'm usually loath to say what the ballot box issue is because everybody's got their own ballot box issue, but I think it's pretty clear looking at the polling data and looking at the response and things that this is the dominant issue. And how fast and how well you respond to it is going to decide your fate. And the reason Carney is doing well in the polls right now is he both has the biography and the appearance and the message that sounds like he's thought this through, is taking it seriously, and knows what to do in response as far as anybody does. Yeah. Whereas Pierre Poilievre it always looks like he's playing catch-up. He's giving a much better message now on this than he was 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, but it's a day late and a dollar short.
Well, and because Mark Carney is Prime Minister, he has to do something. He does have to take action as Prime Minister, but that feeds into, obviously, the election campaign and his political campaign. Chantal?
Yes, it brings the election battle back on the battleground that where the Liberals have the edge. And they have the edge because of Mark Carney, not just because he's Prime Minister. And we've seen this week that he's clearly more comfortable in the prime ministerial suit than in the Liberal leader on the campaign trail suit. And that's putting it mildly. But on a day like today, look at what we're talking about. We are not talking about the various announcements of each party. The NDP and the Bloc Québécois have been forced not to mute, but almost. They're just a distant sound when this conversation takes place. Mr. Poilievre re-becomes the leader of the opposition. He has been trying all week to pretend that this is a normal campaign. Yeah. There were some speeches I listened to this week from Mr. Poilievre that sounded like Donald Trump had not happened. They were the speeches he would have been giving if we'd had a fall election. Yeah. I don't think that works for him, and I do think that there are limits to what he can do about it. One, because he cannot be shooting at Mark Carney, Prime Minister, as he engages with Donald Trump. Right. And two, because when Mark Carney meets the premiers, he is doing so from a position of relative strength in the polls, which makes them say, we need to get along with this guy because he might be around in a month. As opposed to if he were way behind in the polls and everyone knew that this was just a temporary job. So the dynamics give the Liberals the edge, and they will continue to do so because the Trump thing is going to last for more than 24 hours.
It was pretty stark today to see, the Prime Minister's podium and flags behind him, and then Pierre Poilievre out in BC trying to campaign as usual by promising this top up to the tax-free savings account. He talked about Trump, but it wasn't about Trump, and it's perplexing to me. Althea, what did you make of it?
I don't know why you went with that funding announcement. People are worried that they're going to lose their job. The announcement is, if you have extra money, I'm going to help you save more of it. That seemed to be a mismatched tone. But I think that speaks to the word that was probably missing in Andrew's laundry list, which is tone. I think one of the reasons that the Liberals have surged in the polls, and we've seen that the switchers have mostly moved over to the Liberal camp because of Donald Trump, is because of tone, because Mr. Carney has this calm demeanor, a big sweater, don't worry, it's going to be fine, I gotcha. And maybe I might sound condescending, and maybe I'll talk to you like you don't understand the economy, but it's okay, leave it with me, I'll take care of it. And I think for a lot of people that's comforting. And so, yes, to Chantal's point, Mark Carney is probably thrilled that he is not out on the campaign trail because he has had difficulty all week. He has been barraged with questions about his assets, about his time as chair of Brookfield's asset management.
We'll talk more about some of those vulnerabilities.
About the TVA debate, all of these things, because there hasn't been a ton to chew on except for Trump. It was almost like the Liberals were waiting for Donald Trump to weigh in so that they could galvanize this moment. And the Conservatives, I think this is where Chantal was going, they lost first mover advantage because Mr. Poilievre did not recognize how huge Donald Trump was going to be. They're trying. You can see their message is shifting, a little bit more aggressive one day, a little bit more on a workers' focus the next day. It's not landing. It's like they're not actually sure, and they're not committed, and you can see that. They aren't. The rallies are an hour of the same Canada is broken speech, but without those words every night. And I think that they can still win. Well, that's being too generous. I think that they believe that the key is still to mobilize their group of voters, to keep them engaged, to keep those new voters that got in during the Conservative leadership race and voted for Pierre engaged, and that they will be able to surprise people when it comes to the ground game.
Okay, Chantal.
So you do realize that one of the major Conservative problems is not so much that their own support is falling to pieces.
No.
It's not. No. Their biggest problem is that the support for the NDP is vanishing.
Yep.
And it's hard for Pierre Poilievre, I guess, to accept that Jagmeet Singh needs to do well for the Conservatives to have a path to government. But this is where we are. All the Liberals need to do to win this election is hold the seats that they have and win half of the NDP seats. And every poll suggests that this is a polarized election between the two main leaders. So yes, there is an element of denial, but I also believe Mr. Poilievre, for instance, missed an opportunity on Danielle Smith's comments, the Alberta Premier, who said he's more in sync with Trump's ideas, so you should lay off Canada until he's elected. He should have been more decisive about how she's not speaking for him. And he didn't want to go there.
Andrew?
And that's a problem.
The Americans call that a sister soldier moment after Bill Clinton, who adroitly distanced himself from a radical black activist and made the point that he was a centrist Democrat, not a far left Democrat. Well, Poilievre could have turned both Trump and Danielle Smith into opportunities had he seen them coming. Certainly Danielle Smith, by now, he should absolutely have been able to say, look, Danielle Smith does not speak for me. I want nothing to do with Donald Trump. I want everything to do with Canada. He could have put huge distance from. We take it as almost like a given that, of course, the Conservatives are floundering in this. It didn't have to be the case. You could have had a situation where the Trump crisis emerges, and under some theoretical Conservative leader, people might have said, I can't wait to change governments so we can get this leader in to deal with Trump, because I trust him to go up against Trump. That they didn't do so with Poilievre is partly to do with Poilievre's own persona that he's carefully cultivated over the years, which for a lot of Canadians is just a way too Trumpy. And secondly, because he didn't see the opportunity or threat of, in this situation, I've got to go to extraordinary lengths to advertise how opposed to Trump I am. He had more of an obligation to do because he had that perception that he was too cozy with him. He should have seen, I have the obligation to my troops to get out in front and say, I am the anti-Trump. I want nothing to do with Trump. And he didn't do that. He was paralyzed and indecisive.
Okay. Quickly, Althea, quickly.
But that's, I think, misunderstanding who this Conservative Party sees as their base.
I understand.
Now it feels like they're almost like they realize that this is where like the punditry like us believe that they need to go, where some of the electorate, a large swath of the electorate think they should go. And now they're like doubling down on like message purity. And like that is the battle that seems to be happening within the Conservative tent at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to leave it there. When we come back, we're going to take a look at how leaders are addressing, well, we've talked about it a little bit, but other political vulnerabilities.
This is exactly the wrong kind of experience we need in a prime minister, and the worst kinds of conflicts of interest.
Has the first week of the campaign exposed any weaknesses in the main party leaders or their campaigns, things that they can't overcome? That's next. At issue, political vulnerabilities. Major party leaders are trying to address questions about their leadership.
Let's be honest. I want the leadership fair and square.
Or potential conflict of interests.
That the flow through of the funds go to Canadian entities who then pay the taxes appropriately.
So how are parties seizing on their opponents' weaknesses, mistakes, and trying to defend their own? Let's bring everybody back. Chantal, Andrew, and Althea. We alluded to a little bit of it there. Althea, you talked about some of the questions around Mark Carney's time at Brookfield as the chair of that asset fund. There were also some mistakes he made around Quebec, and Pierre Poilievre has had issues of his own, whether it be his security clearance thing again. Tell me where you think these vulnerabilities are, and if anything is sticking in there, Althea.
Well, I think the French thing is an issue. So earlier in the week, Mark Carney mispronounced the last name of a star candidate, Nathalie Provost, who was a survivor of the Polytechnic shooting. But more important than mispronouncing her name was that he talked about her being a survivor of the Concordia shooting. And I think for so many of us, especially people who were in Quebec at the time, like how can you get that wrong?
Yeah.
I think that is like a little bit of a disconnect. I say that, but it looks like the polls in Quebec do not care one bit about any of his language controversies, the fact that like he starts answering a question in French and then gives up halfway and starts answering it in English. On the TVA debate, which frankly I agree with the Liberals on, I think it's nuts that a journalistic outlet would be asking participants to pay money to have a platform. But in any case, the Liberals said no to this TVA debate, which it's the weird thing. Quebec gets, French Canada gets 2 debates. But TVA has 1.3 million people watched it last time, so it's significant, and that's why. But so there were instances where I think that they're obvious stumbles. You know, there's no messaging one day. On the Brookfield stuff, he gives very vague answers. That's why it keeps fueling more and more questions from reporters. But it doesn't seem to matter.
Chantal, is there anything either for Mr. Carney or Mr. Poilievre or anyone else that is turning into a bit of an obstacle for them?
Well, on the TVA debate, the fury, if you can call it that, lasted all of 24 hours. Why? Because there will be a French debate and an English debate, so it's kind of 50-50. And the many journalists in Quebec kind of had the same reservations as Althea has explained. What is this asking parties to pay to go on an election debate platform? Mr. Carney lucked in with the Polytechnic and the shooting and the mistake. Well, at first He didn't say nothing happened. There was a shooting at Concordia, so it made it easier to say it was a mistake. But it also went away because he apologized really quickly.
He did.
And the candidate he was speaking about gave him a pass, which she should. So I think the security clearance issue for Pierre Poilievre is more serious as a liability. Why do I say that? Not only because it's increasingly awkward that he would not get the security clearance, but I think the Conservatives have to worry that there will be more leaks of the kind that we saw this week that actually mostly told people not that there was an attempt by the Indian government to interfere with the leadership campaign of the Conservatives, but that it was in support of Pierre Poilievre. That's the part that was added this week. But he's got to wonder, since he won't read the material, whether some of the people who are running for him, for instance, are under the eye of CSIS. And he doesn't know that, and I think that's a big vulnerability.
Andrew.
It's a big potential vulnerability. I think at this point, I mean, you know, partisans on all sides are heavily invested in making these things seem like the biggest thing ever. And unfortunately, we in the media sometimes fall into the same trap because we're in the significance business and we want to chew over everything. In the full context of this political race, will any of these things really make a whole lot of difference? I don't think so. I mean, unless pending future revelations. Again, this is not a normal race. It's so dominated by this one sort of existential issue. I would suspect the voters are going to look past these things. It doesn't mean there's not real substance to them. I would prefer that the leader of the opposition was getting briefings on you know, behind the scenes on these important security matters. I would prefer, certainly conservative liberals would prefer that Mark Carney was not doing what every executive does, which is trying to minimize his tax liability. It doesn't look great for the party on that. But you know, is that actually going to be deciding anybody's vote when they're coming, when people have been scared out of their wits by this issue? We're talking about how, you know, NDP voters are fleeing to the Liberals. You know, talking about an enthusiasm versus a fear campaign. That fear is a real motivating factor. That'll bring a lot of people out to vote.
What's so interesting though, and sorry to interrupt you there, is it's not fear that is being presented by another party, which is usually how election campaigns go, right? It is fear from the outside that is causing people to move around.
This is fundamentally different from the 1988 election, to which it's often compared. In 1988, there was a huge disagreement about how big is the threat. Will free trade mean the end of Canada, or will it mean, you know, the blossoming of Canada? Now we all agree it's a big threat. The question is, what do we do about it? So it has a very different dynamic that way.
Chantal.
There was, in '88, there were two parties that said, let's not do this, and one that argued for it. No one here is arguing that we should go along with Donald Trump, become the 51st state or some vassal state. That's not happening, which is why it's so difficult to move past CVs of the leaders and the natural advantage that the background that he has gives Mark Carney.
Well, it's fascinating. We're only in week one, so thank you all very much for that. That is at issue on The National. We're going to continue this conversation and talk about something Althea wrote about this week, Liberal MPs who have changed their mind and decided to run again. You can catch that on YouTube or the At Issue podcast. Now back to Adrian in Toronto.
Thank you, Rosie. Coming up, a Canadian photographer on a patriotic mission.
I just need to constantly remind people with my camera of how beautiful this country is.
Up close and personal with one of BC's iconic spirit bears. That's next in our moment. That beautiful creature is a spirit bear seen in British Columbia's Great Bear Rainforest. This is a really rare sight, but a Canadian photographer had the chance to get up close. Paul Nicklin came within 1 meter of the elusive animal and managed to capture its beauty. So tonight, the spirit bear's close-up moment is our moment.
Canada is the most beautiful country in the world. And just to be around a bear like this, BC's most famous iconic bear, the spirit bear of British Columbia, it was really, really special moment. I've lived on the BC coast for many years, and I've become, good friends with many of the First Nations up and down the coast. And Marvin Robinson of the Gitgat First Nation called me and said, I need you to come here and help me celebrate this place, help us protect it. And he took me to this beautiful creek All of a sudden you see this white ghost come out of the forest, and I was so caught up in the moment that I was 3 feet away from it. And I was just like, this is it. It really is sort of an out-of-body experience. And I have to go through my camera later just to make sure that I wasn't dreaming up that I had a spirit bear, a meter away from me. It just really is a powerful, powerful moment. I have traveled all around the world. Like for 22 years, I shot for National Geographic in almost every corner of the world. And every time I come home, I'm like, Canada really is so rich. And I just need to constantly remind people with my camera of how beautiful this country is. Just the peace and the calm and the beauty of it all is just really one of the greatest gifts.
You are not wrong. Thank you for the gift of those photos. There are only between 50 and 150 of those spirit bears around in the BC population. And here's something I didn't know. They're actually black bears, but they have one recessive gene that is responsible for their coloring. From all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. I'm Adrienne Arsenault.